Welcome to the Experience Darden podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, we'd like to feature a conversation I recently recorded with two of my colleagues from our Career Development Center team, Jenny Zenner and Kellogg Leliveld. I sat down to talk with Jenny and Kellogg a little bit more about a new career course they will be launching as a pre-matriculation activity for our incoming MBA students. The course is called Career Development WhyFinding, or for short, CDWhy. And so if you're interested in learning a little bit more about how we support students and how we begin supporting them even before they show up here in Charlottesville, this episode is a must listen. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Jenny Zenner and Kellogg Leliveld. Jenny, Kellogg, welcome to the podcast.
Good morning.
So I should note this is podcast history in the making. This is our first podcast here on the Experience Darden pod with a remote participant. Jenny is calling in from Seattle today, I believe. Is that right, Jenny?
Correct. Foggy Seattle.
And Kellogg and I are here in the Darden Media Studios in beautiful Charlottesville, Virginia. The sun is shining. It's warm outside. I think it's fair to say that summer is officially here. And so the purpose of this podcast is to talk a little bit more about what's going on in the CDC right now and a new pre-matriculation course you are launching called CDWhy. And so let's talk a little bit more about what's going on right now in the Career Development Center. How do you spend your summers? You know, the students have gone, graduation has happened, folks are at their internships. What's going on right now with your team? Kellogg, what are you working on?
Sure. So the summer's always an exciting time for us in that we get to spend some focus time reflecting on the last year. What worked, what didn't, what might we change? It's funny, students often think we go into hibernation, but we're actually quite busy over the summer, mainly with focusing on building new things for the classes that are coming in. So certainly our residential MBAs are off doing their internships. We're still working actively with our executive MBAs and our newest Darden students, which are MSBAs, our business analytics students. But we really spend the summer doing a lot of work on our programming and making sure that we have our resources in place. We're reflecting on best practices that we've learned so that we can be ready to be on our best when our students join us back in August.
So, Jenny, what are you up to? How are you spending your summer months?
Yeah, so this is a fun time for me. I have a big batch of interns in Seattle at our employers, including Amazon, Zillow, Microsoft, T-Mobile, some new ones starting at Starbucks. So it's a fun time to welcome them to the city. I'll also be making trips down to the Bay Area and to DC, visiting some other tech hubs to check in with our interns and new grads there. Additionally, I get to welcome in this new class. So we will have meetings this summer called CDWhy check-in. So once we talk a little bit more about the class, that will make a bit more sense. But I was just loading in all my available appointments to be able to start meeting this class of 2021, which is crazy to think about. And then I have a handful of students who are, just graduated and just finishing up final round interviews. So bringing them across the finish line and helping them find the thing that's going to make them happy.
So it sounds like both of you are very, very busy. So let's talk a little bit more about CDWhy. I know your team spent quite a bit of time developing this course over the past several months. Talk about a little bit more how you got to this point and all the work that went into it and maybe what the goals are. So, Jenny, maybe have you share a little bit more about CDWhy?
Excellent. Yeah. So I have joined the team in 2017, and so it's been fun for me to see how things have changed with MBA recruiting just in that short amount of time. We have seen that many of these companies are trying to hire a diverse range of candidates, and they're offering summer activities, pre-matriculation, before our students even step foot at Darden. And so we had to look at ways that we can help prepare these amazing candidates before we ever see them in Charlottesville. So we've been able to leverage the amazing work that Kellogg's team has done in the past in person to then how could we deliver this up asynchronously online to students all over the globe. And then I can maybe pass it off here to Kellogg to give a little bit more of the history since she's been with Darden a bit longer than I have.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jenny. That was a great backdrop to what we've been doing. So we've always been in the business of working with our students in pre-matriculation for just about as long as I've been here, and that's over 10 years. A lot of that activity happened or our resources were presented through our admitted student website. And I'd say we had a pretty good list of things that students could do over the summer to try to get ready. And we supplemented that with having opportunities for them to connect with our career advising team. So we've been doing things in pre-matriculation for some time, but I want to echo what Jenny said, that the marketplace is just continuing to have recruiting activities move into the summertime. And we also have the experience of when students get on grounds, they're just super busy. Our goal is that we want students, as much as with our career hats on, we want students to be successful in getting that internship they want. We really want them to be successful equally in the classroom. So having that space and the capacity to be the student you want to be, that's why you came to business school, to have that learning experience. So with CDWhy, and let me back up and say, what is CDWhy? CDWhy stands for Career Development WhyFinding. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more. Jenny and I will elaborate on why we went with WhyFinding. But CDWhy is our shortened version of that. And we walk around and we're saying it a lot, but we want to make sure that we tell you the longer version because the career development part is important to that as well. So our inspiration to develop this online course was really all about student success, using that time before they get to school to really just reflect, to think about what they want to do, to explore different ideas, and to get comfortable talking about themselves and what they want. Our hope is, and we're going to see after we talk to this first group of students that go through the course, that when they walk on grounds in Darden, they just feel more prepared than they ever have been. And that's going to allow them to take advantage of early recruiting opportunities when they get on grounds, hopefully with more confidence and more awareness of what they want to do and why they want to do it. And that's a really important word. So our inspiration was all around student success. We've been really fortunate, I think Jenny would echo, here at the Darden School to be able to have the resources to make this happen. So what is it? It's an online self-directed course that lives in Canvas, which is a learning management system that's got 3 different modules that students go through. And it's self-directed, meaning it's all led through video instruction. And those videos were all done by our very talented team of career advisors. And we also have student videos and student testimonials that are woven throughout the course, which we think are equally as important because students love to learn from other students. But none of this would have been possible to put together if we didn't have an instructional designer, a full production team, and a graphic artist to help us package it all together. So I really have to say a shout out to the teams that worked with us to help us put it all together.
It takes a village
to
make a course like this, for sure. So before we sort of dig in on the name a little bit, I am curious about the pre-matriculation, sort of all the career activities that you're seeing now crop up for incoming MBA students during the summer. I feel like I've had some exposure to that this year, not personally or anything, but I work on the Admitted Student website with your colleague Mary Shea Watson, and we've posted about it on the Admitted Student blog. And it just seems like there's a ton of stuff out there. And I wonder, we've run a post from Christy Gunville on the Admitted Student blog about how you might think of participating or why you might participate in one of these activities. I'm curious, Jenny and Kellogg, why would a student think about doing one of these sort of pre-matriculation career activities with one of these companies? What's the value in that for the student? Jenny, you have any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Well, we have a couple of opportunities that are conferences. So people who've been participating with Forte, women applying to business school, they have the chance to come. They get the chance to meet some of their classmates as well as other women who are just starting in that first year and get a first look at some companies. And the other one is with the consortium group, the OP conference that happens coming up here just, in a matter of weeks. And so at either of these conferences, students get to come, meet some of their classmates in advance, and get some career education and career access to some of these companies at an early phase. And so one, you can say, look, I want to go and I want to meet these companies. I'm not ready to interview, but I want to establish the relationship, and some are ready to start interviewing. And not all these companies will be interviewing here. And then in addition, we have other companies that have standalone events. And so they are sending invitations out through various MBA programs, admitted students, communications channels, to saying, hey, we'd love to come meet you during the summer. And so it is one way to get a jump start on meeting some of these companies. Now, you get plenty of opportunity during the fall to meet them too. So we want to leave it up to the student for student choice to say, is this right for me? Does this fit my schedule? Can I do it? I know it's hard for some students to say no to things when they're put in front of them. And we want to let students know that they have plenty of opportunity once they arrive to be able to interact with these same companies. But it can be a way to, before you're doing your classes, if you're taking some downtime during the summer, to get away and just get things started. Kellogg would love to we try to meter it. So Kellogg would love to hear kind of your perspective as well too, because you are on the ground there with people at OP.
Yeah, certainly. So I'm getting ready to head to the orientation program actually in about a week, and we're going to be down in Houston with about 33 Darden students who get an opportunity to start connecting with companies. So I think Jenny did a really nice job of giving an overview of the different flavors of things that happen, from large conferences to individual company events to some other programs like MLT and Jumpstart that do more industry-focused events too. There's also students that just make their own events happen. And I think the exciting thing about being able to participate in any of those is you just get an opportunity to extend your runway of learning. I think students, I would guess that many students are in a place of, some have really strong ideas of what they want to do. Others are still figuring out, and there's everybody that falls in between. And what these different types of recruiting and company engagement opportunities give you is an opportunity to just start the conversations or the listening earlier. And that helps continue to refine for you what you want to do, what you like and what you don't like. And so whether it's attending an event at BCG's office in Chicago, and I don't know if that's really happening, but the consulting firms do a lot of company specific events. My guess is BCG is probably doing something, or going to a large conference, or even having a coffee chat with someone over the summer. You just continue to get some insights. So being curious and hearing what companies have to say, and then playing back to yourself, do I like what I'm hearing? Does this seem like something that's going to work for me and I'm energized? That's what you get through those engagement opportunities over the summer. I think Jenny made a really good point that I want to emphasize, that if you don't have an opportunity to make those things happen, we certainly don't want students to think they're missing out, because we have plenty of students that are living overseas, busy with their jobs. A lot of people work through August, that one of those opportunities may not be on your horizon. You'll have a lot more of that when you get to Darden. So don't worry, more to come.
Yeah, no shortage of employers coming to do company briefings, connect with our students, and that all, as you noted at the outset, starts very quickly once students get here. So, Darden is, all about finding your why and, putting your why to work, and this has been part of our marketing message for the past couple of years. Obviously, that sort of impulse has been woven into the language for this particular course, right? So CDWhy finding. So it brings us sort of the question of, what are the goals for this course? When you think about a student, going through all of these modules and doing this work, what do you want the student to get out of it? What are your sort of thoughts on that, Kellogg?
Sure. I think you're asking a super question, and one that I continue to think about a lot, and that we thought about a lot in the development of this course. That was many months. What is included in the course? And I think, going back to our inspiration, we really, when the campaign for Darden and Put Your Why to Work, I think was really energizing and galvanizing for us here at Darden, because that's what we're all about. That's our mission, is helping students through what they learn in the classroom, and our career services team, and how we help and support students in the difficult job of getting one, maybe two jobs, of having all that come together in a space that you just feel energized. We know one of the challenges. Well, let me back up and say, when we see students, and I think Jenny would attest to this as well, that are really energized about their job, the job that they get, when they call us 6 months after they leave Darden, a year after they leave Darden, and tell us, man, I love what I'm doing. there is nothing more rewarding for us. So our goal is really trying to help students find fit. And it's not easy. In a crowded marketplace with so many opportunities out in front of you, if you're someone like me that I could do 6 different things and probably really like it, piecing all that together and finding your purpose is what we really want to help students do. So, a big part of this course is around the area of self-assessment. It starts with a module that's all about purpose, that's really trying to get students to start being reflective, to think about what they know about themselves, to practicing regularly different elements of reflection now and continuing throughout the job search, because we want to help all those pieces come together so that students are really driven by their purpose and what they want to do. That helps them be proactive. That helps them go towards things rather than just being in a place to react. So coming back to your question, I really hope that students take away from this summer experience the importance in self-awareness as the underpinning and the foundation of job search. And it's not something that a light switches on all of a sudden. Sometimes you get a bit of that, but it's really something that I think is more uncovering, and it's discovery. But it's being really purposeful in moments in your search to say, what does that mean for me? Does that feel like it fits? Does that align with my strengths? Is that a place where I can do my best work? So the course starts out with the first module, again, all about purpose and helping students try to start to, through some self-assessment techniques, start to be more self-aware. So I'm hoping that's a big piece of what students take away from the summer experience in this course.
The thing that I'm struck by hearing you talk about that is one of the things you hear from first-year and second-year students here a lot is that oftentimes when you show up at Darden, there's so many people moving in so many directions, you feel this pressure or you feel pulled in a lot of different ways, right? Oh, maybe I'm interested in tech, or maybe I'm interested in finance, or maybe I want to do consulting. And it sounds like if you can get people to think about their purpose earlier, then maybe that helps them sort of wade through all of that. And there's obviously a place for exploration, but perhaps you don't feel as pulled and you kind of have a little bit more focus, or you are connected to something deeper as you think about, going to company briefings and networking with companies. I'm sure that's something that you talked about.
Yeah, certainly. I think what you have just shared with us or expressed is a challenge that we see from a lot of students. And for folks, again, that are naturally curious, who wouldn't want to go see all these companies, all these different briefings? And some of that, just like you said, that exploration is really important. I think that, again, helps you further define what you like and what you don't like. And sometimes you just need to step into it to figure that out. But hopefully, again, through some self-awareness, you're going to find the place where you have to step back and say, how much more of this exploring can I do to be efficient? And that's an important in my job search. Am I in a place where I'm just really spinning? Or can I grab hold of something and say, you know what, let me go with this? And sometimes you take some steps in your career. We've all had those moments where you just really have to actually do something. That's one of the benefits of having an internship. We're making a guess. Hey, I think I like this. Hopefully you had some purpose behind you when you made that decision. But sometimes you come back and say, you know what, that wasn't quite it. And let me go back and reflect on what didn't work about this so that I can pivot and do something else. So absolutely, we hope that this helps students focus and get some of that clarity earlier in the process, because that's important.
So, Jenny, when you think about the goals or what you'd like our students to get out of CDWhy, what do you ultimately come back to? What crosses your mind?
Yeah, so I love how we've queued up the different modules in CDWhy. We start with purpose. That's your self-discovery. We move on to then the market discovery. Look at what is out there for MBA career paths and letting people realize that might be broader than they thought. And then ultimately then moving them into action. Okay, based on what your skills and strengths are and what you're interested in and what is available out there in the market, then this is how you market yourself, your presence, putting together your own materials between resume, LinkedIn. So that introspection, then looking out to the market, and then action. I definitely am an action person, so trying to help these students get there so that they can be prepared and credible candidates for the employers that they're really interested in. One of the key aspects that we have put into this program are the student stories and alumni stories. So we have profiles in there of alumni so that some of these students can look at the path that someone has taken that maybe was a career switcher, and they can hear from a student who transitioned from one industry to another, so that they can hear about what that looks like. Another big key element of this is queuing up the sense of resilience, because stepping into this, we have an amazing class of really successful candidates coming in, this class of 2021. And for some of them, this might be the first time that they're put in a really uncomfortable situation and get declined by a company. It might be the first time that they've felt something that to them feels like a failure, but to us just feels like part of the process of like, yes, you're not going to get yeses from everywhere. And so how can we prepare them for that, and to be able to take that information, be able to prepare to use that feedback and be successful then in the next go around. So we're trying to queue up a lot here. We know we've bitten off a lot, and we're looking forward to feedback from the students to see what resonates, and as we welcome them in August, then what we build upon from that. Because this really is an iterative process, right? You learn about yourself, you come meet some of these companies, maybe they were your dream company, and then you go meet all the people there, and you just are surprised that you don't connect with them. And then you go to the next briefing and you meet someone, and oh, wow, these are my people. So we're trying to queue up a lot here, and I'm just really excited to launch.
The resilience piece is really interesting. That is a hard thing because, as y'all know, students get jobs at different times. So you may be, and you have some friends who have already secured their internships, and you're still out there looking, and maybe you've applied for some stuff, and it hasn't quite worked out. It's all part of a process, but it can be hard to remember that. How do you promote that kind of resilience or grit with students? Obviously, they come with some of these skills, but how do you think about enhancing or growing that? I'm curious, Kellogg.
Yeah. So, I was really glad that Jenny just mentioned resilience, and you queued that up. It was interesting when we were doing the interviews for CDWhy in the studio with our students. And our students actually took us there. They said, let's talk about failure. Let's talk about what happens when you don't get that job. So I think a first step is just being honest that it's part of the process. So, it's interesting how you'll see some students, and it's like that visual where you have the duck, who is floating on the top of the water, and all we see is the internship that the student got. You don't see what's underneath the water, which is the churning, which is all the different ups and downs that the student went through to get that job. So I think a big part of resilience is just opening up about the process and helping students understand that, yes, there is that light at the end of the tunnel and you're going to get a job, but there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And hearing from others, I think it makes it okay to accept failure as part of the process. I think, as you look at this startup community where failure is actually embraced as such a learning, I'd love to see that as part of the job search process, because I actually think that the students that come out of Darden, having had the setbacks, having had to create the workarounds, having had to reassess themselves after an interview, have the most learning, are positioned for the best career success down the road because they've really just learned the process. Learning happens through change, and we need students to go through that, and we need them to accept a growth mindset when they come into the process, because it's just a lot of ups and downs, a little bit of luck. So I think it really starts with just opening up the dialogue about it.
So, Jenny, when you think about resilience and students, sort of wading through some of these challenges and setbacks, is there anything that you encourage students to focus on as they process all that?
A not yet mindset and that growth mentality. And so being able to think that things haven't worked out yet, but it really is, for these students, a matter of time. And so being able to figure out, take the feedback, what wasn't a fit here, or, okay, you're making it to final rounds, what can we do to close it out next time around? So I really try to work with students to see what can make it work next time, and mine what stories they're telling, and see, well, maybe we could tell this story better so that it connects back to the company. Or, nope, that sounds really good, and I think they just had a competitive field. So it really just becomes that sense of putting in the work, casting a wide net, and maybe considering things that you might not have considered. And also, some of it comes with expectation management. one of the things I find with some students is they want to come to Darden and they want to be career switchers, and they're looking at switching geographies and industries and functional role. And those are a lot of leaps. And Darden is transformative. And sometimes that first leap needs to be, you have to think of a triple jump, a skip, a hop, and a jump, right? To get to that end goal. And so maybe you're switching industries and geographies, but you're staying in the same functional role. And then what we've tried to do with CDWhy is show how people have entered into companies, some of these alumni, and then they've switched functional roles. But they've gotten in, they've learned the industry, they've learned the company, and then they've been able to take that MBA and that company knowledge and transfer into then the dream job. So helping some expectation management for the steps that it might take to get there, because sometimes it isn't just one step.
That's such a good point. It's important for people to remember that the more things you change, obviously, it brings complexity to the search for sure. So we've got a bunch of brand new students that will be showing up here in August. I'm curious, from your professional experience, what are some of the biggest challenges? Obviously, we talked about a few of them already, but when you are working with new MBA students, what do you see as some of the things they might struggle with or be challenged by as they get started here? Jenny, what do you most often see?
Well, here's an interesting story for me for some of our international candidates. And one of our students actually ended up landing an internship with Walmart e-commerce with the idea that he shared. And that was flying into Charlottesville, going and getting the keys to your new unfurnished empty apartment at 6 p.m. at night. And so he actually proposed creating kind of like a registry for being able to furnish your home. So for some people, it is that. It's showing up here to this empty apartment and not knowing a soul. And so for some of our international candidates, really trying to build community early on and get them connected in. The Darden process, I think, does a good job of that. You get your learning team, you get your section, you get to know your classmates early and get to know them well. And so I think that's one of the things that is great. And then for us, we, on the career side of being able to encourage the students to just see what they're enjoying in their classes. What subjects do they like that maybe surprise them? Or maybe they thought they were going to love something and get in there and they're like, oh, wow, this is not what I thought it was going to be. So being able to help them reflect on their academic experience and what that might mean for more successful career choices for them. And just being with them, kind of meeting them where they are is a phrase that we use a lot in CDC. Where is the student? How clear are they on what they want to do? How informed is that? And then how can we help them be more informed if they just need more information, and pointing them to the right resources, because we don't lack those, right? We have an amazing library team that can help on research. We have an amazing student affairs team to help on support on various things. So just being able to help the students find the right resources and meeting them where they are and then taking them along on that journey. I just love it. You know, for me to see these students graduating and setting up shop, moving out to Seattle or Boston or wherever they're going, right? It's just fun for me to see them from casting a wide net to then really narrowing it in and landing that opportunity.
Your colleague, Casey Floyd, said something about recruiting at Darden being a team sport, and that is true for your team. But I'm also reminded of, so it's alumni, it's clubs and organizations, it's second-year students working as second-year coaches with first-year students, obviously the peer-to-peer support within the first-year classes people are going through. I mean, there's so many anecdotes of classmates helping each other prepare for case interviews, or, it's really it takes a village. It's a group activity here. So Kellogg, what are some of the challenges that you see for our newest students here at Darden?
Yeah, I think two other things that I would highlight. Number one of the great things there's many great things obviously about coming to Darden, but as soon as you get here, there's just so much to do. And that's classroom activities, that's co-curricular, it's recruiting. And who doesn't want to step in and try to do it all or experience it all? It's important to have a positive opportunity in the classroom, but doing all the things socially. and taking advantage of all the recruiting opportunities, it can become a little bit overwhelming. And so I see some of the students that end up being successful really get good at project managing the whole thing. And sometimes that's about saying no, figuring out, where I can say yes to this or where I should say yes and where I'm okay just to say no. So I think it's really important to get involved, become part of the community, but watch taking on too much and trying to be involved in everything because it can really compromise some of your energy, your sleep, and your ability to show up really well in some of the places that it's probably most important. So that's number one. Number two, one of the things that we see, and it tends to show up a little bit towards the end of September and October, we see where students start to really question themselves, a little bit of the imposter syndrome when they're learning new things in the classroom, even new things in the job search, where they will start to see some little, what I'd say, fractures in their confidence. And as someone who has watched this every year, we know they're going to turn a corner. They just haven't done something enough. Because you haven't done it doesn't mean you're not going to be good at it. It may be you're sitting in accounting and you're working with an accountant and you're just questioning, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to do this. So I would just say that time may come for you in the program where you're really questioning whether you should be there. Give yourself a little bit of time. Be good to yourself. There's a reason you're there, and learning from everyone happens at different paces and at different times. And you're going to get through it, and you're going to come out the other end, and all of a sudden you're going to see that yourself as that finance person you never thought you could be, or you're going to see yourself as that incredible case interviewer that you never thought you could be. And that's one of the roles that our team plays in trying to be that positive coaching support. And I think the Darden community really does a good job to try to support students in those challenging moments where you're really questioning if you could do something. But that may pop up for some of our students. And I would just say, give yourself some patience and be good to yourself. You're going to turn the corner and be stronger than you thought.
So much good advice on this podcast episode. And I know your team must be thrilled to have CDWhy out into the world. It's been quite the labor. I mean, you talked about the group of people who made it possible. I'm sure you're eager to have students open it up and get started with the modules. But I just wanted to thank you both for taking the time today to talk a little bit more about what your team has been up to, this course in particular, and obviously sharing some incredible insights for students who will be joining the Darden community shortly. So thank you, Kellogg. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jenny Zenner and Kellogg Leliveld, two of my colleagues from our Career Development Center team. As always, here on the Experience Darden podcast, we're interested in your comments, suggestions, requests. If you have any ideas, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at Darden, that's Darden, @virginia.edu. Until next time, thanks for listening.